caution on our speaker that this, on our speaker, that is my opinion, and I'm entitled to an opinion. On our speaker, I believe I'm on the floor, and I'm entitled to an opinion. I have not ruled. I've said in my opinion.
Honorable Wanjala, take your seat. You've made your point. Take your seat.
Honorable Speaker, I would like to just draw caution to Mr. Kanja. Honorable Speaker, Kenyan police is not one of the most respected. I know, Honorable Speaker, all of us have traveled in this house. And whenever you go to an airport and you're not sure of what to do or where to go, the first people you respect and expect to give you genuine guidance are the police. And that is why we're asking Mr. Kanja to bring the Kenyan police to that particular level of respect. Honorable Speaker, I would also ask that we refrain from aligning our police force. Honorable Speaker, our policemen are also Kenyans and workers in this particular country, and we need to support them to do their job. Honorable Speaker, I would also like Honorable Kanja to train the police to be credible in whatever they do so that they can be respected people. I would like to Honorable Speaker to appeal to this House to consider Honorable Kanja for the appointment. I thank you.
Honorable Wanjala. Honorable Wanjala, intellectual honesty requires that when you quote something, you quote it fully, not selectively. If you read that whole paragraph, you'll have found that the answer you are looking for lies there. And it doesn't require the ruling of the speaker. The committee says, the committee noted that at the time of the hearing, the nominee was 61 years old. Article 245 of the Constitution does not prescribe an age limit for the Inspector General. Further, Section 76 of the National Police Service Act, Cap 84, excludes the Inspector General from the retirement age of 60 years. So if you read that paragraph in full, you could have had the answer that you are looking for. So that is called intellectual inexactitude. I'll give to McLap.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the problem of my good brother is Wanjala is not always available on time because this matter was debated in the morning and concluded.
Don't debate Wanjala, debate the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Number one is that the committee chaired by Honorable Tongoyo did a very good job in a very systematic and summarized manner for everyone to be able to debate on this matter. So I want to congratulate the committee for doing a good job. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, you know I come from a region, the North Rift, where banditry has been a problem. When I came to Parliament, Mr. Speaker, I asked whom do I go and see in the police force, in the police service, who can assist my people. So, Speaker, I was told of one Douglas Kanja. And when reaching his office, Mr. Speaker, I got a first-class treatment that I've never been given a treatment like that by police. The treatment was, this gentleman walked out to his office to come and meet me and took me inside. That is a very humble police person in the country, Mr. Speaker. Number two, the fact that President Kibaki saw an opportunity, equality in him. He gave him OGW. When Uhuru Kenyatta gave him another presidential honor, and William Ruto gave another presidential honor. So, Speaker, that tells you this is a man that the country can rely on security matters. So, Speaker, as I end, what awaits Kanja is digitization of the police services in the country so that to reduce the issues of corruption. Two, protect the NBRs in the country so that they are protected just like the other police. Three, let him go in record as the IG in Kenya.
As Tongoyo, you can now reply. The time I allocated is over. Yes, Wanjala, what is it again? You look restless.
please, Mike. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, recently this country was going almost to a revolution. And one of the issues Gen Zs said, they don't want people holding those offices, government, civil servant offices, who are above 60 years.
Order, Angela. This house operates on the basis of the Constitution. Order. Honorable Angela, you're out of order. Tongoyo.
Give me the mic. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And before I reply, I have got only about one or two things to add. Honorable Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to really sincerely thank all members of this House from both sides of the House for debating this motion with objectivity and for the overwhelming support that actually they have given to this motion. Honorable Speaker, it is important to note that from almost 30 plus members of this House who have contributed to this motion, all of them, they have given their own personal testimonies of the person, Mr. Kancha, of a person who is always ready to listen, a person who is a team player, a person, of course, who is committed to the service, and with no doubt, Mr. Douglas Kancha is a man that we can trust to bring the needed reform in the police service. Mr. Speaker, actually, that should be also a rallying, a call to all of us as leaders, that when we give an opportunity to serve, we should always do it diligently with a lot of zeal. So when a time comes for scrutiny, there will be too much good to be said about us and the accolades to be said of what we have done during our time of serving the country. Mr. Speaker, two critical things that came up. One, you have actually managed to address, I don't want to say it, on the issue of the age. Of course, it was raised earlier by our very senior member there, and of course by Angela. I don't repeat it, you have said it very well. Mr. Speaker, there is the issue, of course, which was raised by Otende on the issue of temporary absence of the Inspector General. And the Section 16, Cap 80 is also very clear that the President, on recommendation of the Commission, may appoint one of the Deputy Inspector General to act as the Inspector General for the period not exceeding 3 months. So I think that confirmed that the position of the acting IG is in order. With this, Mr. Speaker, I want to call this House to approve the appointment of one Mr. Kancha for this position, and I reply, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much.
Order, honorable members. Order, Kagusha. Take your seat. Honorable members, I now put the question, which is that taking into consideration the findings of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs and the Senate Standing Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations, in its report on the vetting of Mr. Douglas Kanja Kirocho for approval as the Inspector General of the National Police Service, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 17th September 2024, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 245(2)(a) of the Constitution and Section 12(1) of the National Police Service Act, Cap 84, and Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, Cap 7F, this House approves the appointment of Mr. Douglas Kanja Kirocho as the Inspector General of the National Police Service. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? No. The ayes have it. Honorable members, we'll go back to order number 7. where today we have the Minister for Education in the House, Mr. Ogamba. So CS, it's now your opportunity to respond to issues that you must be fully familiar with. This House held a Kamkunji on Tuesday, 20th August 2024, and matters that arose from there required and necessitated the House to invite you to come and speak to the issues as listed out on the order paper which you are familiar with. And I'll give you the opportunity. Thereafter, members will have an opportunity to ask you questions, both on the statement you are going to give and any other matters within your jurisdiction in the Ministry of Education. You may take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable members. Mr. Speaker, may I take this opportunity before I start to introduce the team that I'm accompanied with for purposes of record. I'm accompanied by the PS TVET in the Ministry of Education, Dr. Esther Moria, the PS Basic Education, Dr. Belio Kipsang, the PS Higher Education, Madam Beatrice Inyangala. I'm also accompanied by Professor Daniel Mugendi, the chair of all VCs, the vice chancellors of the universities in Kenya, public universities, and the CEO of the University Fund, Geoffrey Munari, together with my technical advisor, Joshua Wabwire. Mr. Speaker, may I take this opportunity to first and foremost thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak in this August House, specifically about the student-centered funding model, which is new in this country, and any other issues that relate to that model and in the education sector. Mr. Speaker, I also thank you for the Kamkunji you hosted on the 20th of August 2024, together with other honorable members that arose out of the concerns surrounding the new funding model. Mr. Speaker, we benefited from you and from the members' concerns and perspectives, and we have since taken action towards the proper rolling out of the model in a seamless and sensitive to the stakeholders' concerns. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for favoring us with a copy of the answered, which indicated or stipulated the issues that were of concern. Mr. Speaker, I wish to indicate that a day after the Kamkunji on the 21st of August 2024, we did implement your directive and requested all the vice chancellors in the country, in the public universities, to admit all the university students who had applied and admitted to those universities without paying their household contribution, as we sorted out the issues that were surrounding the funding model. Mr. Speaker, a total of 124,364 students out of the 538 students that were placed have since reported to their respective universities. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to note that the number of students who have since paid their household contribution out of the 124 plus students are 75,000, which is almost above 60%. Mr. Speaker, The first question that we need to address, or we are requested to respond to, relates to us expounding on the application of the funding model for public universities and TVETs, including the criteria for ensuring that the analysis and categorization of beneficiaries into the 5 bands does not disadvantage the very needy students that it is supposed to support. Mr. Speaker, and as honorable members are aware, the student-centered funding model was launched by His Excellency, the President, in May 2023. It was first applied in the 2023-2024 academic year, and it is now in its second year of implementation. Mr. Speaker, the model was introduced on the recommendation of the Presidential Working Party on education reform that was set up and that concluded its report last year. The model is designed, Mr. Speaker, to provide funding to students based on their level of need. This was targeted at achieving equity and inclusivity to enhance access to higher education, regardless of one's socioeconomic background. Mr. Speaker, once a student is placed to a university by the Kenya University Central Placement Service, they lodge an application for funding through the Higher Education Portal. Students placed in public universities can apply for both scholarships and loans, and students placed on private universities are eligible only for loans. The student-centered model, Mr. Speaker, has 5 bands, and these are set out based on the household income groups and the level of need. The household income groups represent broad household weighted income brackets that are as follows. Band number 1 is the group whose household income is below 5,995 shillings per month. Band number 2 falls on households whose income per month is between 5,995 and 70,000 shillings. Band number 23,000, the second band 2, is between 5,995 to 23,670. Band 3 is from 23,671 to 70,000. Band 4, 70,001 to 119,999. And band 5 are households whose income is above 120,000. Mr. Speaker, based on the 5 bands, there is also affirmative action that is considered during the banding. Now, under table number 1 that I have here and to which I forwarded a letter to you, scholarship university bands on table number 1, band 1, the amount of scholarship is 70%, the loan is 25%, and the household contribution is 5%. So I'll just, so that I save time, I'll just read the household contribution for band number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Band number 1 contributes 5%. Band number 2 contributes 10%. Band number 3 contributes 20%. Band number 4 contributes 30%. And band number 5 contributes 40%. The rest is contributed by the government. On the scholarships, band number 1 gets 70%. Band number 2 gets 60% for TVETs. Band number 3 gets 50%. Band number 4 gets 40%. And band number 5 gets 50%. To determine, Mr. Speaker, the student's level of need, in order to give the categorization, there was use of a product called the means testing instrument. Now, the means testing instrument was designed to utilize data provided by students to determine their level of need. The data was then validated through other government agencies and systems. The application system is integrated in other government databases that include the Universities and College Central Placement Service, the Integrated Population Registration System, the National Education Management Information System, NEMIS, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the Higher Education Loans Board, the Registrar of Births and Deaths, the National Social Protection Scheme, National Council of Persons with Disabilities, and the Kenya Revenue Authority. This integration helped to validate the information provided by various students in order to ensure that they are banded in the right band. This targeted approach, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, ensures that students who face the most significant financial challenges receive the greatest support to complete their education. Madam Speaker, since the rollout of the student-centered funding model, there have been improvements carried out to ensure that it accurately determines the student's level of need and that no needy student is disadvantaged. The improvements have been formed by engagement with stakeholders, including honorable members of parliament through that Kamkunji. On account of these engagements, for example, Madam Speaker, the means testing instrument has been enhanced to capture broader socioeconomic factors and therefore improve the accuracy of the categorization. These extra additional socioeconomic factors include the number of children in primary and secondary school in a household. They also include the parents' highest educational level. It also includes the agricultural priority programs, and I'll come to explain that a little bit later. It includes areas where, for example, parents are known. So the categorization has been expanded in order to ensure that as we categorize the students into bands, the outcome places them as close as possible to their realities. These improvements, Mr. Speaker, have seen a change in categorization across the various bands, even as students also have been sensitized to provide more accurate information that are detailed. A comparison of their categorization between the year 2023, 2024, and the 2024-2025 has actually confirmed from the figures that the band 1, band 2, and band 3 have more students this year than they had the last year. And band 5 and band 4 and 5 have lesser students than they had last year. So it has tilted because of the improvement of the categorization. The other mechanisms that have also been placed in place ensure that the very needy students are not disadvantaged is the appeals mechanism. We came up with an appeals mechanism that allows students to get into the appeals portal, and if their circumstances have changed, they would put in the new information and they would then be recategorized. This is because we acknowledge that financial circumstances of students and parents do change, and therefore, once they change, the student banding also changes. For example, if a parent has lost a job, the student would go into the portal and indicate that although my father or mother was working last year, they are not working this year and I do not have the income we had last year, so it has shifted and therefore their circumstances have changed. We have also noted and acknowledged that internet access and connectivity has various disadvantages to various students, and students who come from poor backgrounds may not have access to the internet. To cure this, we have set up desks in each and every university from the university funding team so that the students can be assisted to put in their data in the universities where they've been admitted to, so that they are not disadvantaged. Mr. Speaker, the second question requires us to set measures that were put in place to simplify the model and enlighten the general public about it. As you rightly noted during the Kamkunji, the public was not well informed about the student-centered funding model. And we agreed with you that we need to put more energy in communication to the public. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, we've taken a number of measures, and firstly, we've noted the salient concern that has been raised by stakeholders, especially the students themselves, on their involvement in decision-making around the funding model. In this regard, His Excellency the President has constituted the National Working Committee on Review of the new University Education Funding Model to refine the funding model in order to optimize its functioning. The Gazette notice has been released and it is attached. And this is part of the broader effort to ensure that stakeholders understand the model and they contribute to enhancing it. The other measures that we've taken, Mr. Speaker, include public sensitization. We've rolled out a number of public sensitization campaigns across the country through the radio, the print media, public forums, etc., etc. We have also gone into digital resource for easy access, where as a ministry, we have invested in digital resources to simplify access through the funding model that is in the portal. We have also done stakeholder engagement and collaboration. We've rolled out YouTube demonstrations and social media campaigns where demonstrations are given step by step on how to apply for scholarships and to apply for loans under this funding model. We've also done social media campaigns through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, including short video clips showing answers to the frequently asked questions. Mr. Speaker, we have also included simplification application process through automation, where we've stipulated the various steps on how an applicant can check their eligibility and submit their documents online. We have also created, Mr. Speaker, helplines where we have continuous feedback so that we can respond to them. They are on 24/7 basis so that we can be able to respond to the challenges or the questions and concerns that the students have. We have done regional outreach, both on sites and off sites through Oduma centers and other support systems. We've done timely updates and transparent disbursements of the amounts that are due to the students. And Mr. Speaker, will continue to engage the public and continue discussing with them and informing them how this model works so that the public are informed. Mr. Speaker, the third question requires us to provide the approximate cost of education of an individual from the basic education level to the tertiary level. Mr. Speaker, the cost of an individual student from basic to tertiary levels depends on a number of variables, such as whether the learner has special needs, the type of schools attended, whether it's a day school or a boarding school, the gender, and the type of tertiary education received. That's whether it is through TVET or university. The current rates, Mr. Speaker, for capitation are as follows. For Primary, we have 1,420 per learner per year. For secondary, that is junior school, we have 15,042 per learner per year. And for secondary, we have 22,244 per learner per year. Mr. Speaker, these rates were considered by the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms, and they recommended that the rates be revised to reflect the actual costs of education. Therefore, the figures provided above are the figures that I'm going to read below are the ones that were recommended by the Working Party. For pre-primary, it was recommended that the figure be enhanced to 5,384 per year for lunch and 1,170 per year for tuition. That brings the cost per year to about 18,828 for PP1 and PP2. But if the learner has special needs, the figure increases to 19,636. For primary school, the figure that has been recommended is 2,238 per year for tuition and 5,384 for lunch. The total cost, therefore, per learner in a regular day primary school for 6 years is 45,732. In boarding schools, the cost increases because of the cost of dinner, that is 5,594, resulting in 79,296 shillings per year. If the learner has special needs, this figure increases, and the total is 101.40 shillings for the entire primary school period. For junior school, the annual cost of tuition in regular school is estimated at 15,043 per learner. The cost for lunch is 5,384. This totals 61,281 for the 3 years in a regular day junior school. If the learner has special needs, you add 10,000, it goes up by 10,000, and therefore goes to 91,281 per year. In secondary schools, there is a table that I have, and Mr. Speaker, allow me to just indicate that we have a different figure for female students and male students, because the female students in the kit that they get is slightly higher than the male students. So for female students in National Extra County School, the figure is 481,915 for the 4 years. But if you have special needs, the figure is 621,915. For males, the figure works out to 472,232. But if you have special need, it becomes 612,232. If you're in boarding school for females, the figure is 429,839. But if you have special needs, it is 569,839. And male in boarding schools, the figure is 420,156. And if you have special needs, it is 560,156. At this point, Mr. Speaker, let me note that 70% of our students are in day schools, with boarding secondary schools accounting for only 30% of the student population. For learners with special needs, Mr. Speaker, the capitation is enhanced by 35,000 per learner per year, with a total capitation of 230,108 per learner over the 4 years. For learners in day secondary schools, the approximate cost per learner per year is 22,527 for tuition, 11,000 for lunch, and this totals to 134,108. The 11,000 for lunch in these schools, however, is a special arrangement between the schools and the parents, and it's not a capitation. For tertiary education, Mr. Speaker, the average cost of education and training in technical and vocational education and training institutions is 125,789 per annum, comprising tuition of 67,189 and assessment of 15,000, upkeep of 18,600, and administration costs of 25,000. In universities, the annual programs cost range from 122,400 for arts programs to 612,000 per year for programs in medicine. The average upkeep costs per year for students in the university is 60,000 per student. Mr. Speaker, the figures for secondary school that we have indicated are between the fees for day secondary schools to the lowest, that's the lowest figure, and national extra secondary schools have the highest figures. So, Mr. Speaker, the figures for universities and TVET are inclusive of upkeep and subsistence costs. The most expensive program is Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery, actually Bachelor of Medicine and Dental Surgery, which is 612,000. And the least expensive program is Bachelor of Arts at 122,400. Mr. Speaker, the fourth question requires us to state the amounts that goes towards education bursaries and scholarships every year. I wish to clarify, Mr. Speaker, that the government is required to provide capitation to public basic education institutions every year at the approved rate of 1,420 per learner per year in primary schools, 15,042 per learner per year in junior school, and 22,244 per learner per year in secondary school. The total provision depends on the enrollment and the requirements that have been provided has a deficit over the last 3 financial years, and I have a table there to show, for instance, in the financial year 2022 to 2023, the requirement was 11,815 million. But what was budgeted was 11,800. Thank you for that. What I can say is that, in fact, when these issues arose, we decided to use the chiefs and the village elders that we have in the country and Angao to also check whether the information that we have is correct relating to the number of students.
Members,
Yes.
what's your point of order, Naisula?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Having listened to my colleagues and also on a different matter, not the verification, Mr. Speaker, having listened to the CS, it is clear we're still on a free mode because the students have just been allowed to school. As the ministry continues to sort out these issues, Mr. Speaker, at what point can we get a definite answer as this House that this model is working? Because I've just thought about it when they say that because of the Kamkunji that you called, we implemented your directive and instructed that all public universities will admit students irrespective of their ability, So we are on a free mode as we speak. By the time the schools close and we come again next semester, will we find ourselves in the same position, Mr. Speaker?
Go on, Waziri, and answer.
Yes.
We'll still give everybody an opportunity, so just hold
Thank
your
you.
horses.
Thank you. I was still on
And a little
Dr.
faster.
Nikal's position about the verification. The variables, Dr. Nikal, that were used, Mr. Speaker, included family structures, the schools attended. This information ties with what Honorable Bayer was talking about. In fact, the schools attended was part of the variable that was used to determine whether a child is able to pay or not pay in order for them to be banded in a certain band. What was perhaps not clear is whether you are in a school under sponsorship or personal payment. So this is now the information that is being expanded to find out if you are banded in the wrong band because you are sponsored and it looked from the MTI that you are you have self-capacity, it's then correct. This is what we are doing with the appeals, where you are giving now more information to say, although I was in an academy under sponsorship, so that it is corrected. We are not saying that we are not saying that we do not acknowledge that there is a problem. We acknowledge that there is a problem, and what we are trying to do is solve that problem. But while we are solving that problem, the children cannot stay home. We said, come to school, stay in school as we clear this issue. The definite answer that I can give to Honorable Lesuda that we need to be able to clear this is within the next 3 months, so that when this January comes, we do not have this problem again. That is the basis upon which the committee has 8 weeks to resolve the issues that surround it.
Cynthia Moge's question, 2 children,
Cynthia,
same father, same
two
mother,
children, same mother.
different bands.
Different bands. And this again may be a problem of how the data was entered. So what we would suggest is, if you give us the details of those children, we can find out, did they enter the same data? Because if you go in and put in information that is different from your sister or from your brother, it will take you to different places depending on what information you put in. So I can't really stand here and give you an actual reason why they were given different bands unless I have more information on that particular case.
Which, yes, Mbaya?
The question
Okay.
on private
Yes.
universities where they do not get scholarship, I think this is a legal and policy issue that has been discussed here many times. And I think it is something that perhaps all of us as a country, we need to discuss to make that decision. It is not a ministerial policy decision, it's a government decision.
Private university. He don't want to go to private university. He's applied to go to a university in Kenya. Hopes places this student in a private university, and he has not requested. Then when he gets the form to go to the private university, he's told he can't go to scholarship. I think the PS really helped me with these students, and I want to acknowledge and thank her, because I said transfer those students back to public university. But there are other kids who felt, I want to do medicine. I've been placed in a private university because they couldn't, because there was too many applicants in the public universities. Now these students are there, they're suffering. They have said, the minister said, let them go. Some of them chose to go. What will happen to these students? I have made specific requests to the minister. Kindly transfer the students from Kilifi North back into public university in causes that are equally as weighty as those causes. And that is how you will save a whole generation of bright young people who have been put in private universities where they can never afford because they still have balances even in high school.
Yes, Minister?
Yes, I'm informed, and this one, I don't have all the information as you speak, and you give me more time to go and find out how to deal with it, is that when students are placed in courses or they have made a choice in certain universities and they are not able to go there because of their marks, then the system places them into a different university, which might end up being a public university, but something that we'll do something about. As you correctly say, the PS has been able to help. So we are alive to that. We'll be able to sort it out.
Kajwang's,
The question that my friend Kajwang raises is correct, that we are going to, once this information is collected, it will be reduced into a document that then would be brought here as a sectional paper or as a draft, then we include it as regulations or gazettement. So it is a process that we've started to ensure that we have this grounded in law once it is completed, so that it has the force of law.
Moreo's question?
Morio's issue was that we need to go back. What is good, you should not go ahead and change it. But when we were in school, at that time, we were quite very few. And we were having, yes. So what has happened is that as the students increased, the government then was not able to do the capitation. And I said it that although the government was supposed to give 80% of the capitation, the highest they ever gave was 66%. This year they have given 38%, meaning there is a hole, there's a big shortfall that required to be filled. And that is the reason why it became necessary for this particular model to be thought of so that money can follow the students. However, we have to improve it, and that is what we are doing by working with all these teams to ensure that we have a model that passes the test of time.
Let's take the next round. Mugabe.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. I've been following the conversation, rather the debate, and there's one component that has been either ignored, but you're not focusing on it. The issue is the CS comfortable with the new fees structures for universities? Because that's a very critical component, that the fees of universities were raised in very enormous numbers, from what people used to pay around 16,000 in a year to 600,000 in some courses. So that is the first issue. Are they comfortable with that? And the people who are made, rather were in that particular task force to look at the issue of fees. Who are these people? And you'd find most of them were actually professors and vice chancellors of universities who wanted to get more money. So we must start to address the issue from the issue of school fees. Are we comfortable with that? Number two, on the same issue of school fees, if a student gets good grades and they are called to do medicine, then the percentage that they're supposed to contribute is high. So we are basically punishing those students who have done well. And you'll find that even some students may opt to do other, maybe not so marketable courses that require lower grades because of the issues of the fees of the courses that they qualify for. That is another component that we need to look at.
Thank you, Sirat.
And if you'd allow me, Speaker.
There are so many interests, Mugabe. That's enough. Sirat, please try and ask one clarification, one question. Give him the mic. It's one next to you. Or is it ahead of you? Give him the mic.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think they have a problem with me. I don't know. Anyway, the ministry is trying to tell us that they have taken data which is not accurate. Having said that, we have seen there is an interest component, which is, I mean, we have different students that practice different faith in this country. I don't know how a Muslim student can apply using the conventional loan. Why haven't you, why haven't you discussed it with other stakeholders to get Sharia compliance for this student to get this loan? Thank you very much.
Bensouda.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. First, I would like to ask the CS to confirm whether feasibility study was done for the MTI, pre-testing of the instrument, and who were the target population for this, and what was informational on that. Because I heard the CS mention about chiefs were asked to do responses, and to me, that was not adequate target population. And a cost-benefit analysis. Mr. Speaker, as I stand to ask the same question, components on that, we mentioned, the CS mentioned about ensuring that the TVETs and the higher education also, they get the funding. At home, I was just away from home 2 days ago. There are students who are in the villages. There are students who are supposed to go to the TTIs. They cannot access. When the VCs are called to be told and given addresses that no student should not be allowed to report to school. We are talking of theories in parliament. At home, the students are at home. And also when I'm talking about cost-benefit analysis, I am asking in regard to yesterday we saw the multimedia students, they were out, there is no electricity, there is no water, and many other things. So cost-benefit analysis, before we talk about amalgamating all the bursaries, which the CS has pronounced that this requires time of about 3 months or something. Why do we waste Kenyans' money in forming committees to check on what we propose that fails this country? Competency-based curriculum has not gained even up to 50%. I'm a primary school teacher. Right now, the bursaries we are talking to propose to amalgamate will not work. Education should be free for all. Vision 2030. All Kenyans at primary level must access education. That is opposite of what is taking place in Kenya. What is our transition level, retention? Mr. Speaker, would you give me a minute kindly?
You are making a speech. Yes, Ruku.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Why is it that the ministry cannot go to the old financing model as we get it right to this new financing model, Mr. Speaker? We have, the minister said we have 14,000 students who have not reported. Is it possible to get the list of the 14,000 students who have not reported and where they come from, so that we, the members of parliament, can make follow-up with those students? Because 14,000, Mr. Speaker, is a very huge number. It's almost, if we compare, and all these are likely to come from marginalized constituencies like Mbeere North. So it is extremely important to
There's
get...
no evidence to that effect.
It is true, but Mr. Speaker, you know, we have many marginalized constituencies. The other thing, Mr. Speaker, is we are facing a problem at the University of Nairobi, where the former Vice Chancellor, Professor Kiama, was thrown out of the office through a coup. And we are witnessing a downfall of management of the university. What is the minister doing? What's the minister doing on the issues of University of Nairobi? And also we have
enough. Women Rep Busia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to ask the CS if Section 27 in the Constitution, Article 27, Section 4 was really observed. It is, this model is very discriminative, and you can never tell if a student who's applying for fees knows the whereabouts of their parents. A student might be feeling that there are only 2 in their home because he knows daddy and mommy were married and they are legitimately together, not knowing that daddy has another wife that they do not know, and the other wife has another child. That child is also feeling that he is alone in their home. These children, if you put them together, they belong to one man, they might be 6. So this one saying that he's the only one at home is denied fees because daddy has a good salary. It leads to these children not going to school because daddy will be overwhelmed, suffocated, eventually just give up because of this model. So it's very discriminative. Let us give these children, all of them, equal opportunities to go to school. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Madenge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this means testing instrument seems to have assumed that these young people only began to exist in this country upon the release of the results of KCSE. Yet the ministry has a system referred to as NEMIS. If the ministry used that system, you would not need to apply, expanded the scope of the system, captured more data about the students' history, performance, right from when they are in the system. By the time they are sitting for the exams, you would not need this means testing instrument. So I'm advising an expansion of the scope of capturing data using NEMIS. The second thing is the anxiety that you're causing in the institutions today. Waiting for 3 months after appeal without knowing what this appeal is going to be like and whether there is any recourse. Should my appeal fail, where do I go? Do I stop? Does my education come to an end, or what do I do? Lastly, Mr. Speaker, on safety in our schools because of the fires, and we are affected in Nyeri. The ministry has totally failed in implementing its own regulations in terms of safety and occupational health of our students. And Mr. Speaker, the Education Committee should demand that the ministry files with Parliament the reports of the quality assessments in our schools in every quarter. And that is also shared with parents so that our children are not exposed to certain dangers in our institution.
Last on that, Carol Omondi. Then the Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
We'll do another round after that until you get satisfied.
Thank you very much. I'll try and be very brief, Honorable Speaker. We've looked at this matter, I think, several times, and I think the issue is just about accessibility and affordability of education. But having said that, let me make a proposal that I think for this university funding model to work, the applications, as I said last time, should be made while the students are still in high school, before they even sit for the exams, because that is where all the information about their financial records, how they've been paying fees, and then they have teachers, counselors to guide them, and also internet connectivity. I think the application for the loans should be made before the students leave school. Secondly, the determination as to what somebody should get as a scholarship, a loan, or aid is a financial question. But if you look at the MTI instrument to determine the household income, the parameters are sociocultural. How do you answer a financial question using sociocultural parameters? As I said last time, let us use financial tools to determine the financial income or needs of every student. And those, the range of information is available, it is out there. You've mentioned tax records. There are also M-Pesa records of the guardians. There are also employment records. There are also other government systems like social protection. There are a range of financial tools that we can use to make that determination. And then I would like to suggest that we also include in this funding model medical insurance for the students. It's not covered in any of the tools. And finally, this may be a little radical, but I think it is time as members of parliament, we looked for ways and means of dedicating more resources to improving university facilities. And one of them is to cut political party funding and dedicate those resources to university education. Thank you very much.
Yes, CS, that's his opinion. Pardon? Yes, Shimba?
I had actually requested the ministry to inform this House what his ministry is doing to ensure that there is equitable distribution of the finances that they hold. We know you have finances, but how are you distributing those funds?
Point
what mechanism?
made.
Yeah.
You had walked out.
Thank you. Thank you. On your question on distribution of finances, the capitation is based on the enrollment of the students, so that if from your area X number of students come, it's that X number times the amount. That is how it's done. It's not possible to
just
holds, which it distributes to MPs. But which method do they use to ensure that every constituency gets a fair share of that money?
Understood.
I can proceed. On the question that Honorable Mugabe asked whether we are comfortable with the fee structure and that the fees was raised, part of what the committee is going to look at is the cost of the programs in various schools, and it is part of the TORs that we are putting there, because what was happening before, the programs were rated the same, but you'll agree with us that, for example, if you are doing arts and somebody else is doing a program that requires equipment, the cost is not the same for practicals and theory. So that is going to be looked at and rationalized so that the fee is properly proportionate to the cost and that it's not extraneous or that is not that high. So that is going to be, it's part of what the committee is going to do. Sirat, your comments are well taken. It is true on the different faiths and the program that is being developed, the MTI that is being developed vis-a-vis the loans, we are working towards coming up with a model or with a particular model that deals with Sharia law, Sharia compliant, so that we are not forcing people to go to a different level. It is being done. That particular suggestion is very, very welcome, and thank you for it. Bensouda, on whether the visibility was done and the cost-benefit analysis was done, yes, it was done, and that is why for the last 2 years, when this model has worked, the universities have been able to slightly meet their requirements. And what happened, unfortunately, in multimedia, I was informed this morning that it was a particular pipe that burst and there was no water to the hostels, but that has since been rectified. And there is a meeting tomorrow with the students and we'll have a report at the end of the day. So that is being done. The cost-benefit analysis was done. But to be clear, I have not said we are going to amalgamate. Please don't get me wrong. The ministry has not said that it's going to amalgamate any of the bursaries because we are not there yet. It is a conversation that is being had and you are having it, other people are having it. Once it becomes law in the future, then we will be able to apply it as necessary. The old funding model by Rogo saying that perhaps these 14,000 students, we need their details. That's a good suggestion. And we're going to get the details from COOPS and share with you so that if somebody comes from your constituency, you're able to determine and find out the reason why they've not gone to school. That's a very good suggestion. And thank you very, very, very much. On the issue of Professor Kiama, that is an active issue that is ongoing with the council and the university. We are dealing with it, and once it is concluded, we'll be able to give you a report, but it's not yet concluded. It's a governance issue, it's being dealt with. The women rep from Busia, the issue of discrimination, this is where we are saying when data is being placed into the MTI, the information can be collected. And this is what we are trying to find out. Is the data that is being given by the students the correct data? And is there something that can be done? The intention of the funding model is not to discriminate. The intention is to ensure that the students who need the support of the government in doing their courses are able to study. Thank you, Honorable Mathenge, for your suggestions. And it is true that the scope perhaps needs to be expanded to ensure that the gap is not that high, because when you expand the variables, you reduce the error. You are able to bring the results closer to the margin of error. On the issue of 3 months, the students have been advised on what we are doing, that once we do the banding or rebanding, depending on where you are, then we'll deal with that issue at that point and give time, give room for them to continue paying or not paying until the issue is resolved. We are not going to disenfranchise the students by saying, you are in this band, you are now moved to this one, you didn't pay, go back home or something like that. That is what we are working on, because the fund is giving that much more money to the university than before. Remember, the DUC for this year, for example, has given 38%. If you take the 75,000 students who have paid, and then you take the portion of the government that has paid, the funding model has paid that much higher than 38%. So there's that much more resources in the universities, and that's how they are able to keep the students in school. And we are able to work this out to ensure that whatever problem that is there with this particular mechanism is sorted out without affecting the students, because the students were not the cause of the problem. So we are resolving it, and we are alive to it. The suggestion that we should give reports on safety measures to this house quarterly, I think is an excellent suggestion. An excellent suggestion, so that we can become accountable, that whatever is happening there in our schools, everybody is aware of it. And since you represent various constituencies, if you find it is a school in your constituency that is not meeting those standards, you can also help us through your system to ensure that those schools have what is required to ensure that our children are safe. That's an excellent suggestion, and we have picked it, and we'll run with it. Similar with what my friend Karoli Omondi has said, the funding model requires those variables to not only deal with the ones that are socioeconomic, but financial as well. So that mix does give us an indication of where the student or the parents are, and it's an excellent suggestion, and we are taking it with gratitude. On the issue of the political funds going to schools or universities, that's something that is it's under law. It's a legal issue. If you pass that law, well and good, we'll just be happy to take the money. And the suggestion that we need to include a medical insurance component is something that we look at, and it's an important suggestion. And thank you so much for those brilliant suggestions.
Dorothy? Okay. Give Dorothy the mic. You're giving the wrong location. Move.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I start by saying the success of any progressive nation lies in its education systems. Mr. Speaker, I want to challenge the minister and his team seated here, because, Mr. Speaker, if there is a ministry that is well structured, where the minister would be sitting down and at the click of a button, he can be able to access all the information that he likes, is the Ministry of Education. The data that he is purporting not to have, I have been a primary school teacher. The enrollment of the school, every data is put in a system right from day one. I can be able to tell as a teacher the number of students in the school, those in class 1, and so in every part of this country. Mr. Speaker, that is not an excuse that data is not available. If they want to get the best testing tool for this particular funding, they can get this information from our schools, Mr. Speaker. Every teacher knows the child who sleeps hungry. Every teacher can be able to tell you a child who has no father, a child who is a total orphan, a child who has well to do with parents. So the data can be availed in the schools. There is no need of doing a scientific way of getting data for this funding. This is availed in schools. Mr. Speaker, my question goes directly to the TVET, and I want to really thank the PS TVET, because she is always available to answer questions when required to do so. Mr. Speaker, up to this time, the TVET institutions, and it's the fourth quarter, they have not gotten any single cent in matter of funding. And the students in those schools can be very rogue. Mr. Speaker, if it is not possible, I think there should be a mechanism of ensuring that the principals are allowed to charge some little money even for operations, so that at the end of the day, we don't have a replica of what is happening, what happened yesterday in multimedia. There is no water, no electricity, nothing. Mr. Speaker, what is the ministry doing to ensure that capitation is released in our schools at the earliest opportunity so that our
Thank
teachers
you,
don't
Dorothy
suffer?
Sunguli.
Mr. Speaker, with regards to the loans that are given to the students, what is the interest rate that they are supposed to pay back with? And my second comment is actually on the capitalization of the, now it is given per student. And I have asked this question before to your predecessor, Mr. CS. And I don't know whether I take it as a concern in my constituency that because you give capitation per student, per capita, what it has done is that there are some very, very
Tunaingia vijijini, mijini na hata jijini kukuletea taarifa mchana kutwa. Usiku tunakaa kitako, tunadadavua tukichanganua taarifa na makala muhimu yanayokuhusu wewe na familia yako.
Nasikia watu wanasema baba ametusaliti. Between baba kutusaliti na sisi kusaliti baba, nani amesaliti mwingine?
Inapeangwa, it mostly goes to foreign ministries. So Baba is overqualified for that position.
To build this railways for Africa. So now he's thinking about tumemkataa kama baba wetu.
Unaweza kuwa kuna mtoto ulizaa, ukapatia nchi, ikuwe inamfanya vile inataka.
Uhuru has been working very hard. Ruto akaenda huko na nguvu. Ruto was never invited in the inauguration.
Ungana na Bernard Ngozi kwenye Open Forum Political Show kuanzia saa 4 usiku hadi dakika zake kila siku ya wiki kwenye Soundcard Talk.
Open Forum Political Discussion Show. The show that gives you an opportunity to air what you feel and think about the latest development.
Tukutane Soundcard Talk.